When you settle in to watch a jazz band, it's easy to get drawn to the flash.
Oh, absolutely.
The
Yeah.
trumpet player hitting a high C or the saxophone just melting through a solo.
Right.
But if you think of that whole band as a powerful machine running in perfect sync, the drummer isn't just a part of it, they're the engine.
They are the engine. That's the perfect way to put it. They're sort of the hidden star driving everything forward.
We often think of drummers from a rock music perspective, right?
Yeah.
Just a heavy, steady beat.
Exactly. And that's the key difference. In jazz, that one person is managing an entire percussion section.
An entire section.
Yeah, creating these incredibly complex rhythms and, at the same time, having a musical conversation with everyone else on stage. It's this intense, spontaneous multitasking.
So let's unpack that. Today, we want to understand the physical and I guess the intellectual coordination this all takes.
Yeah.
We're going to look at how the instrument itself even came to be, the sounds a jazz drummer has to make, and the history behind this really complex skill.
The whole story of jazz percussion really starts out of necessity.
Right.
We're talking late 1800s, New Orleans. Before that, in marching bands, if you wanted a bass drum, a snare, and cymbals.
You needed 3 different people.
3 people. It was a team effort just for the rhythm.
So as the music moved indoors into clubs, they just couldn't afford that many musicians.
Exactly. They had to condense the sound. The big breakthrough was figuring out how one person could control everything with both their hands and their feet.
At the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah.
And this attempt, they called it double drumming, was really clumsy at first.
I can imagine.
They were experimenting, hitting the sides of the drums, using wood blocks for different sounds. But they were physically limited until one key invention.
The bass drum pedal.
The bass drum pedal.
Yeah.
That's the piece of hardware the entire modern drum kit hinges on.
So guys like William Ludwig in the early 1900s, they realized if they could just use their right foot for the bass drum,
then their hands are completely free. And once that pedal was perfected, it changed music forever. It allowed for all the complexity we now associate with jazz drumming. The foot anchors the beat, and the hands can paint the picture.
Speaking of the components, let's break down the actual kit. You might notice, if you see one, that a jazz kit is often smaller.
Oh, much smaller and lighter than what you'd see in rock or metal.
Why is that?
The whole goal is different. It's about a lighter, more agile, almost melodic sound.
Okay, so let's start with the biggest piece, the bass drum.
Right. Sits on the floor. You play it with that foot pedal for the deep tones. A jazz bass drum might be, say, 18 or 20 inches. A rock drummer might use a 24-inch one just for pure volume.
And right above that, you have the snare drum.
The snare is defined by those thin wires stretched across the bottom.
Those are the actual snares.
They are. And when you hit the top, those wires vibrate against the bottom skin, and that's what creates that sharp, snappy sound. It lets you punch through the band.
Then you have the tom-toms for fills, and of course the cymbals.
Right, the metal discs on stands. But the one component that absolutely defines jazz timekeeping.
It has to be the hi-hat.
It's the hi-hat.
Yep.
A special pair of cymbals, one on top of the other.
And the crucial part is you've got another pedal for that.
A separate foot pedal for your left foot. Learning to make your 2 feet do 2 different things. That is the first major barrier to entry for any drummer. And that leads us right into the techniques of timekeeping. If you're listening to a rock song, the pulse is almost always between the bass drum and the snare drum.
Right. The classic boom bap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In jazz, that completely changes. The main timekeeper is almost always the ride cymbal.
It's fascinating because it's not just a rigid beat, is it? It's more of a flow.
It's a continuous flowing pulse. Drummers create this unique pattern people call it a swinging gallop.
A swinging gallop. I like that.
It gives a stable but really flexible foundation for the rest of the band to play on top of.
And the drummer is controlling the texture of that sound, too.
Constantly. By hitting different parts of that big 20-inch cymbal. You hit the edge, you get this dark, shimmering wash of sound.
And what about that little dome in the middle?
That's the bell. You hit that, you get a sharp, piercing ping that can cut through anything.
Meanwhile, what's the hi-hat doing?
And the hi-hat provides the structure. The drummer uses their left foot to snap it shut on the 2nd and 4th beat of every measure.
So, 1 chick, 3 chick?
That's it. That crisp click is the anchor for the whole band.
Yeah.
It's the heartbeat that keeps everyone, including the dancers, locked in. Without it, the ride cymbal might get too loose.
But you can also play it open, right, for that messy sound.
Yeah, that messy splashing sound. You leave the cymbals slightly apart and hit it. It adds this burst of energy. So it's not just a timekeeper, it's a dynamic instrument in its own right.
Oh.
And all of this brings us to the rhythmic core of jazz, the swing feel.
If you had to pick one thing that makes jazz sound like jazz, it's the swing.
It is. So if you tap along to most pop or rock, you're tapping straight eighth notes.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and perfectly even, like a clock.
Right. But jazz works on this subtle deception. It might be written like straight notes, but is played with a triplet feel.
Okay, so break that down.
Instead of 2 even notes, you're playing the first and third notes of a hidden 3-note group. Think 1 and a 2 and a. The first note is longer than the second.
So that's what creates that bouncing or rolling feeling.
That's the whole deal.
Yeah.
And that rhythmic idea came directly from African musical traditions that were carried through into New Orleans.
And the really high level part is that the ratio isn't always the same, is it?
No, it's constantly changing. On a really fast song, the swing almost flattens out and becomes straight. On a slow song, the bounce gets much wider. The drummer is constantly adjusting that feel, just by instinct.
And once you've mastered swing, you have to master dynamics, volume control.
An extraordinary range. You might be in a huge big band trying to be heard over 20 other instruments.
So you have to play loud.
Really loud. But then, the next night, you could be in a tiny club with just an acoustic bass and a piano. If you play that loud,
You ruin the whole thing.
you destroy the balance. So great drummers learn to play just with their wrists, keeping it incredibly quiet. It's all about making the music feel balanced and conversational.
To pull all of this off the swing, the dynamics, the physical coordination is just, it's intense. They call it four-way independence.
It's so demanding because your brain naturally wants your limbs to move together, in sync.
Right.
Four-way independence is forcing each limb to do a completely different rhythmic job at the exact same time.
So just think about that. Your right hand is playing that flowing ride pattern. Your left foot is clicking the hi-hat on 2 and 4.
Your left hand is playing accents on the snare, and your right foot is pulsing the bass drum on random offbeats.
Every single limb is playing a counter rhythm to the others.
It's a huge mental and physical challenge. It takes years of constant repetitive practice until those movements become automatic. To the listener, it just sounds light and effortless.
And sometimes even playing quietly with sticks is too much.
That's where brushes come in.
Special tools, right. Bundles of thin wires.
Yeah, thin wires or plastic strands. And instead of hitting the drum, you slide them across the surface in a stirring motion.
What kind of sound does that make?
It creates this continuous whispering sound. It's perfect for slow songs, for ballads, because it keeps time without drowning out a singer or a quiet piano.
And on top of all that, there's improvisation.
The cornerstone of jazz. And it's not just making stuff up, it's a musical conversation. The drummer is always listening.
So if the sax player does something fast and complex,
The drummer reacts instantly, maybe with loud cymbal hits or busy patterns on the snare. They're commenting on and challenging what the other musicians are doing.
and a drum solo is their chance to tell their own story.
Exactly. Using the whole kit to showcase their creativity.
Yeah.
That freedom is what draws so many incredible musicians to jazz. If we look at the timeline, the peak of jazz popularity was probably the 1930s and 40s, the big band era.
These were huge groups, 15, 20 musicians, lots of trumpets, trombones, saxophones.
And in that setting, the drummer's job was absolutely critical. They were the engine that had to drive that whole massive group forward.
So they had to be loud.
They had to be loud, which meant bigger drums, 24 or 26-inch bass drums, and more cymbals to signal all the changes in the music.
Band leaders like Duke Ellington and Count Basie, they totally relied on their drummers.
Completely. And this is the era when drummers became famous stars in their own right.
And so many legends came out of that time. You have Art Blakey.
Known for his incredible, powerful, just primal style, a real force.
And Max Roach, who helped invent the bebop style.
Max Roach changed the game. Before him, the bass drum kept steady time. Roach moved that pulse to the ride cymbal.
So he freed up the other drums.
Totally. The bass drum and snare were now free for accents and melodic conversation. That's why his style is called melodic. The drums started participating in the harmony.
Then you have Buddy Rich, famous for just impossible speed.
Blindingly fast solos. His technique was an art form in itself.
And you can't forget Elvin Jones.
Oh, Elvin Jones, who played with John Coltrane. He pioneered a heavy, dense, polyrhythmic style.
Okay, polyrhythmic. What does that mean?
It means playing multiple contrasting rhythms at the same time. It was beyond four-way independence. It sounded less like a beat and more like a rhythmic thunderstorm surrounding the band.
And the art form keeps evolving today.
It never stops. Modern jazz drumming mixes in rock, funk, Latin music from Brazil and Cuba.
You also hear about drummers using weird time signatures.
Yeah, complex, irregular time signatures. Most music is in 44 time, 4 beats. Modern jazz might use 54 or 74. The rhythm feels asymmetrical, and it takes incredible precision from the drummer to hold it all together.
But even with all these changes, the goal is still the same, isn't it?
It's exactly the same as it was in the beginning. Provide a solid foundation, but express your own personal creativity.
So really, jazz drumming is so much more than just keeping a beat. It's a physically and mentally demanding art form, requiring this incredible coordination and creativity.
It demands that one person be both the steady anchor and the spontaneous commentator.
So next time you hear a jazz band, try to listen past the melody. Zero in on that flowing pulse from the cymbal, the clicks from the hi-hat, that whole four-way conversation, and ask yourself, how is the drummer shaping this moment?
We hope this changes the way you hear the engine of the band.
See you next time.